Good morning, Year 5. It's Mrs. Aarons here, and I have prepared a lesson on modal verbs, which I hope you enjoy this morning. So, our learning objective is to use a range of modal verbs in my writing. Now, in Year 5, we have been learning how to use modal verbs. However, not all of us have included them in our most recent newspaper reports. So today we're going to have another go at using them. For this activity, you will just need your writing equipment and a London Eye Mystery if you have one. If you don't have a copy of the book at home, that's fine. You can work from your memory of what we have read in class. So, ask yourself to begin with, do you know what a modal verb is? And can you use them in your writing? So here's an example of a SATs type question. Circle the modal verb in the sentence below. They could be here at 6 o'clock. Which word would you circle to identify the modal verb? And does the modal verb you circled indicate certainty or possibility? So by the end of this lesson, you will feel confident to answer that question. Now, modal verbs, as a recap, are used to show how possible something is or how likely it is to happen. They cannot be in a sentence on their own. They need to be with a main verb. So the first thing to do is to identify the main verb in a sentence. Here's an example. You could eat a roast chicken instead of onion soup. So I've identified that my verb is to eat, and therefore my modal verb is the possibility it is of me eating it. How likely is that going to be to happen? So in this case, it's could. You could eat a roast chicken. Another example, if you stay, shall we play in the garden? I identify my verb first of all, to play, and then my modal verb is indicating how likely it is for that to happen. Shall we play? Here's another example, and I'd like you to have a go at this at home. Let me just move my screen icon, there we go. So, we can walk the other way. It's quicker. Where is the modal verb and the main verb in this sentence? Can you identify the modal and the main verbs? Where would I put my arrows? Well done. You should have identified that the verb is to walk, and in this instance the modal verb is can. We can walk the other way. Okay? Quick task for you to, before we do our task, we're going to look at some examples. I've found these examples in a couple of children in 5H's work, so well done to Sassia and William, who have already included modal verbs in their writing independently. So here's Sassia's example. Then Justin, the police officer, commented that it is a very unfortunate event. However, they should stay calm. Where is Sassia's modal verb? Which word should I be highlighting? Let me get my highlighter. And well done if you said should. The modal verb, they should stay calm. And looking at William's work here, William's sentence says, the police have stated that the family must stay at home and keep ringing his phone. And William's already edited his work and highlighted his modal word must when he was self-assessing. So well done. We've got must and should being used in examples of your own writing. Now, here's your first task. You can stop the video when you are ready. I want you to identify as many modal verbs as you can that could complete this sentence. So, Ted, you stay here. What words might be able to go in the middle of that sentence? And there are some examples on the side there. Ted, you could stay here. Ted, you shall stay here. Ted, you can stay here. So, pause the video, give yourself about 40 seconds and see how many other modal verbs you can think of that could go in there. Okay, well done. So if I take away the answers, that shape, then we can see some examples, and you could check them off on your list and see how many of these you found for yourselves. Did you identify would, may, might? You must stay here. You should stay here. You ought to. You will stay here. And you can hear from how I'm reading those examples that there are differing degrees of certainty over whether or not that will happen. So what I'd like you to do now with your pencil is just draw yourself a quick Venn diagram, 2 circles, and on one side you've got most likely and on the other side you've got least likely. And then have a go, and I've put 2 minutes on the clock for this. If you pause the video and have a look at the words on the right hand side of the screen, the modal verbs, try and decide where they're going to go in the Venn diagram. Which ones indicate that it is most likely to happen and which ones indicate that it is least likely to happen. Okay, off you go. Well done. So you might have arranged them in a similar way to this. Of course, it could be that you've got different decisions, but hopefully that activity will show you that words like must and will and shall indicate more possibility than might or may or would. And putting them into a sentence helps us to decide the degree of certainty over something happening with a modal verb. Okay, now I said we're thinking about the London Eye mystery today. I have put some sentences up that are reasons that could explain Salim's disappearance. Okay, and these are ideas that Ted has had about what has happened to his cousin. So, Ted thinks that perhaps Salim has gone back to Birmingham to see his dad. Another one, Salim never got on the Eye in the first place. Perhaps Aunt Gloria isn't telling the truth about Salim being happy to move to New York. Perhaps he doesn't really want to go. Another one, Salim spontaneously combusted. How likely is that? Another theory was that Salim was sucked into a time warp. Perhaps Salim never got on the Eye in the first place. Or Salim stayed on the pod and hid, under a seat maybe, and went round 3 or 4 more times. Another idea was that Ted and Kat might have missed Salim when he came off the Eye, or that Salim hid in someone else's clothes. Okay, and you can see that what I've done is I've taken one of those examples. So I've looked at the first one, Salim has gone back to Birmingham to see his dad, and I have made a sentence using a modal verb to indicate the possibility of that happening. Okay, so my example is, we should call his father to find out if he's been in touch. Which modal verb have I used in that instance? Well done, should. We should call his father to find out if he's been in touch. And today in your main activity, you're going to use the ideas that Ted had about Salim's disappearance to create your own piece of writing. So, your task is to write sentences from Ted's perspective to persuade your family that your theories are worth considering. So you'll be writing in the first person, being Ted, and you're going to include a range of modal verbs. And hopefully you'll be able to show a great variety of modal verbs in your writing. And there's a word bank there to help you. Now, if you want to complete the bronze level activity, you will write your own sentences as if you were Ted, containing a modal verb. So an example there would be, Salim might have gone back to see his dad. If you want to work at silver level, then you could write your sentences but support your argument using further details from the text and a range of connectives. So an example here would be, you must listen to me. Salim could have hid under the seat in the pod. Also, it might be that, and you can see that that example is not finished because I want you to put in your fantastic ideas there. If you're going to work at gold level this morning, you're going to complete silver, so you're using a range of connectives to link your ideas in the form of a paragraph. So include a modal verb, but also thinking about a fronted subordinate clause to start some of your sentences with. And here's my example. If you pay attention to my ideas, we might discover that we missed Salim coming off the pod, and he's looking for us now. Okay, so your paragraph will be built according to your confidence with using embedded and fronted subordinate clauses as well. And if you really want a challenge today, then your paragraph will aim to include a simile or a metaphor as well. And here's an example. It is clear to me that this is like looking for a needle in a haystack. Okay, so you can pause the video now, and I would spend 20 minutes having a go at constructing some sentences using the London Eye Mystery as your inspiration for some fantastic writing using modal verbs. Enjoy! And finally, well done. I hope that your writing has been fun this morning and that you have developed some confidence using modal verbs. Finally, could you choose your favourite sentence in your writing and underline it? And then, now or later on today, can you explain to someone in your family what a modal verb is? And that will really make sure that you've secured your learning this morning. And of course, it wouldn't be an HJS lesson without a reflection. So perhaps you could draw me a reflection shape, and I'd like to know, what are you most pleased about your work? So today, Mrs. Ahrens, I am most pleased that. And normally we would structure together some answers for that. I'd like you to have a go yourself and think how you could finish that sentence. And we're going to finish by going back to that SAT-style question that we looked at the beginning. And I hope you'll all be feeling confident now to say that the modal verb would, of course, be could. They could be here at 6 o'clock. And the modal verb indicates that it's a possibility, of course. Okay, well done, Year 5, and enjoy the rest of your day.